Welcome back, dear listener, and thank you for returning to this quiet place, where history softens its voice and imagination becomes a gentle guide. And tonight, as you settle into stillness and allow the day to loosen its grip, we begin a slow and peaceful journey into the deep past, not the loud past of battles and kings, but the hushed past that breathes beneath the sands, the kind of past that reveals itself only when the world is quiet and the mind is open, and as your breathing becomes steady and your body grows heavy with rest. Picture yourself standing beneath a vast night sky, the stars scattered like ancient memories. Across a velvet darkness, and before you stretches the Giza plateau, silent, immense, and timeless, where the desert rests as it has for countless ages, and there emerging softly from the moonlit sands stands the Sphinx, the great guardian of stone, watching, waiting, listening, its eyes fixed on a horizon that has seen civilizations rise and vanish like passing dreams. And in this moment, there is no hurry, no demand to understand everything at once. Only an invitation to wonder gently, because this is not a story meant to awaken the mind sharply, but one meant to cradle it too. Let curiosity drift slowly like a feather towards sleep, and so we begin part 1. The guardian before history, where the Sphinx awakens not with sound, but with presence. Because the Sphinx does not speak in words, it speaks in endurance, in silence, in the language of time itself. And as you imagine walking closer, your footsteps make no sound on the sand, and the air feels cool. An ancient carrying whispers of a world far older than memory, and you notice the Sphinx's body, carved directly from the living rock, its immense form weathered not by centuries, but by millennia, its stone surface worn smooth in places, marked by deep, rounded grooves. That scholars have long debated, grooves that do not resemble the sharp cuts of wine-driven sand, but rather the soft, persistent shaping of flowing water, rain falling again and again over long ages, rain that Egypt has not known since a time when the Sahara itself was green. And as this realization settles in, it does not alarm you, it soothes you, because it suggests a deeper story, one that stretches beyond the familiar pages of textbooks, a story that unfolds slowly, patiently, just as sleep does, and you begin to sense that the Sphinx may not belong to the Egypt we know, but to an age before dynasties, before hieroglyphs, before the very idea of pharaohs ruling the land. And this thought arrives gently without confrontation, like a calm question whispered into the night. What if the Sphinx was already ancient when the first Egyptians looked upon it? What if it stood as a relic of a forgotten time, inherited rather than created, revered rather than explained? And as you sit with this idea, your mind does not race, it drifts, because this is not about proving or disproving, it is about feeling the depth of time, the vastness of human memory, and the humility that comes from realizing how much may have been lost. And the Sphinx with its lion's body and human face seems to embody this mystery perfectly, part animal, part human, part earth, part sky, a symbol that feels less like a statue and more like a threshold, a marker between eras. And the longer you look at it in your imagination, the more you feel that it is not guarding a tomb or a treasure, but something far more subtle, something intangible. Perhaps the memory of a world that once understood the rhythms of nature, the movement of stars, and the cycles of life in a way we are only beginning to rediscover. And the night deepens as you remain there, the stars slowly shifting overhead, just as they have for tens of thousands of years. And you realize that the Sphinx is aligned with these heavens, facing the rising sun, greeting each new dawn as it has done since time beyond record. And this alignment feels intentional, purposeful. as if whoever shaped this guardian understood the sky not just as decoration, but as a map, a story, a living clock. And this realization does not press for answers, it simply invites awe. And awe is a gentle emotion, one that relaxes the mind and softens the body, making space for rest. And as you continue to breathe slowly, you imagine the Sphinx witnessing epochs pass in silence, watching rivers change course, climates shift, peoples come and go, watching knowledge rise, fall, and scatter like sand in the wind. And through it all, the Sphinx remains, not judging, not teaching openly, but holding its presence as if to say that not everything needs to be spoken to be known. And this is where the idea of a forgotten civilization begins to take shape, not as a dramatic revelation, but as a quiet possibility. Because civilizations, like dreams, can fade without leaving clear traces, especially if they existed far earlier than our oldest records. And perhaps the Sphinx is one such trace, a surviving fragment of a time when humans lived differently, thought differently, and built not for conquest, but for continuity. And as this thought unfolds, your awareness begins to soften even further, your eyelids heavier now, your body sinking comfortably into rest, and the desert scene grows calmer, more distant, as if viewed through a veil of drowsiness. And the Sphinx, ever patient, continues to watch not only the horizon, but you, the listener, the dreamer, the one who has paused long enough to listen to its silent story. And there is comfort in knowing that some mysteries do not demand resolution, that some questions are meant to accompany us gently into sleep, enriching our dreams rather than disturbing them. And so part one draws to a close, not with an answer, but with a feeling, a sense of standing at the edge of something vast and ancient, something that does not rush, something that waits just as the Sphinx waits, just as sleep waits, ready to receive you. And as you drift further into rest, hold this image softly. The moonlit guardian, the quiet desert, the deep time, stretching endlessly behind and ahead, and let yourself relax completely, knowing that this is only the beginning of the journey, and that the sounds of ancient history will continue to reveal their secrets slowly, gently, one dream-like step at a time, one dream-like step at a time. And as that final image of the moonlit guardian settles softly into the background of your mind, the story does not stop, it simply moves deeper, flowing naturally from stone into space, from silence into number, from the watchful presence of the Sphinx into the quiet, deliberate form of the Great Pyramid itself. And so, without waking, without breaking the calm, we drift into part two, where the mystery changes shape and becomes something even more subtle, even more mesmerizing, because now you are no longer standing before a carved face. You are standing before geometry made solid, before a structure so precise that it seems less built than remembered. And as you imagine the Great Pyramid rising gently out of the darkness, its edges softened by moonlight, you feel an unexpected stillness, as though the structure itself is calming your thoughts, inviting your breathing to slow further, because this pyramid does not overwhelm. It steadies, and the first thing you notice is its silence, a silence that feels intentional, as if sound itself behaves differently here. And in that silence, your attention drifts to the shape, for perfect sides rising toward a single point, aligned not roughly, not approximately, but almost impossibly, with the cardinal directions of the Earth, north, south, east, and west, aligned with an accuracy that modern engineers still admire. And this realization does not arrive as a shock, but as a gentle curiosity, because alignment suggests awareness, and awareness suggests intention, and intention suggests a purpose deeper than burial. And as your mind lingers on this idea, the pyramid seems to respond, not by explaining, but by offering patterns, numbers, proportions, quiet mathematical whispers embedded in stone. And slowly, calmly, you begin to sense that the Great Pyramid is not merely a structure you look at, but a structure that looks back, measuring, reflecting, mirroring the world itself, because its proportions echo the shape of the Earth, its perimeter, relating to its height in a way that reflects the planet's dimensions, as if the builders were encoding the Earth into stone, preserving its form for ages yet to come. And this thought does not rush you toward conclusions, it simply invites wonder. The kind of wonder that soothes rather than excites. And as you breathe deeply, you imagine ancient hands placing each massive block not with brute force alone, but with understanding, guided by knowledge of geometry, astronomy, and time knowledge that feels less primitive than profound, and the idea gently forms that perhaps the pyramid was not meant to be used in the ordinary sense at all. Perhaps it was meant to endure, to remain stable while everything else changed, like a still point in a turning world. And as this idea unfolds, your awareness drifts upward beyond the stone, beyond the plateau, into the sky itself, because the pyramid is not only aligned with the Earth, it is aligned with the stars, its position reflecting celestial patterns, pointing toward constellations as they appeared long ago, not as they appear today, suggesting a deep understanding of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis over vast spans of time, a cycle so long that it stretches far beyond a single lifetime or even a single civilization. And this awareness feels humbling, calming, because it suggests patience, a way of thinking measured not in years but in ages. And as you imagine the night sky above Giza thousands of years ago, Orion rising differently, the Milky Way brighter, the world quieter, you begin to sense that the pyramid may have been designed as a marker in time, not a clock that ticks, but a reference point, a message that says we were here. We understood this moment in the cosmos, and we wanted it remembered. And this is where the idea of the pyramid as a kind of time machine begins to emerge, not a machine that moves bodies through time, but one that carries knowledge across it, preserving understanding when words fail and languages vanish, because stone does not forget easily, and mathematics forgets even less. And as your thoughts move slowly through this possibility, you feel no urgency to solve the mystery, because this story is not about answers, it is about resonance, the quiet feeling that something meaningful is present even if it remains unnamed. And as you imagine standing at the base of the pyramid, your hand resting gently against its cool surface, you sense that the stone holds memory, not memory as images, but as relationships, ratios, alignments, patterns that can be rediscovered by those who look closely enough. And perhaps that was the intention all along, not to teach openly, but to invite future minds into a conversation across time, a conversation conducted not in words, but in numbers and stars and shadows. And this thought relaxes you further, because it suggests continuity, a thread connecting distant ages, reminding you that curiosity itself is ancient, that wonder is something humans have always shared. And as you continue to rest in this idea, the interior of the pyramid begins to form in your imagination, narrow passages sloping upward and downward, chambers that feel more like resonant spaces than rooms designed with precision, as if sound, vibration, and stillness were considered as carefully as stone. And some have wondered whether these spaces were meant to amplify something, not noise, but harmony, whether the pyramid interacted with the Earth itself, channeling subtle energies, not in a dramatic sense, but in a quiet, balancing way, like a tuning fork brought gently into contact with the planet. And whether or not this is true, The idea itself carries a certain calm because it frames the pyramid not as a monument to death, but as a structure devoted to order, balance, and continuity. And as this idea settles, you realize that nothing about the Great Pyramid feels accidental. Not its size, not its placement, not its proportions, and yet there's a softness to this realization, because whatever its purpose, it has fulfilled. It's simply by remaining, by standing through earthquakes, invasions, weather, and time itself. And as you breathe slowly, your body heavy and relaxed, now you imagine the pyramid at night long ago, and now unchanged in its essential form, reflecting starlight casting shadows that move imperceptibly with the heavens. And in this image there is comfort because it suggests that some things endure quietly, without needing recognition, without demanding belief, and as part to gently draws toward its close. The idea of the pyramid as a time machine lingers not as a claim, but as a feeling, the feeling that knowledge can be carried forward silently, that wisdom does not always announce itself, and that sometimes the most profound messages are those embedded so deeply in the world that they can only be felt when we slow down enough to listen. And as you drift closer to sleep, let this image remain softly with you, the Great Pyramid standing beneath the stars, holding its quiet mathematical song, waiting patiently, just as it always has, for the next dreamer to arrive. And listen for the next dreamer to arrive, and listen. And as that quiet mathematical song fades gently into the background of your awareness, the journey continues without interruption, without any sharp edge to wake the mind. Because now the story turns inward, away from the stars and proportions and toward the human figures who later walked among these ancient stones. And so part 3 begins not with construction, but with absence, with the curious and lingering question of what is missing. Because as you remain in this calm, half-dreaming state, the Great Pyramid no longer feels like a monument waiting to be entered, but like a riddle waiting to be noticed. And slowly, almost tenderly, your attention drifts to what lies inside. Or more precisely, what does not, because despite centuries of searching, despite expectations shaped by other tombs in Egypt, there is no mummy here, no sarcophagus filled with a king's remains, no painted walls telling stories of the afterlife, no treasures laid out for eternity. Only empty chambers, bare stone, and silence. And this absence is not unsettling, it is strangely peaceful, as if the pyramid was never meant to hold a body at all. And as this thought settles, your breathing grows deeper, your mind more open, because emptiness can be just as meaningful as presence, sometimes even more so. And the question rises softly like a thought just before sleep: if this was not a tomb, then what was it? And here the story introduces a figure. You may already know Pharaoh Khufu, traditionally credited as the builder of the Great Pyramid, yet the evidence linking him directly to its construction is surprisingly thin, resting largely on later interpretations, and a single cartouche found in a relieving chamber, a mark that some argue could indicate ownership or restoration rather than creation. And this distinction is important, but not in a way that demands debate, only in a way that invites reflection, because ancient rulers were often restorers of what came before them, caretakers of monuments already old, inheritors of legacies. They did not begin, and as you imagine Khufu standing on the Giza plateau, the pyramid already rising before him, weathered yet majestic, you sense not arrogance, but reverence, a recognition of something greater than his own reign, something rooted in a past even he could not fully grasp. And this idea is gently supported by an ancient artifact known as the inventory Stela, a stone tablet discovered near Giza that speaks of the pyramids and the Sphinx as existing before Khufu's time suggesting that he repaired or restored these structures rather than built them. And while scholars debate its accuracy, its presence adds another layer to the mystery. Another whisper in the quiet chorus of unanswered questions, and as you listen to this whisper, you feel no need to choose sides. Because this story is not about certainty, it is about possibility. About allowing the mind to rest in this space, where history becomes less rigid and more fluid, and the idea that Khufu may have been a restorer rather than a builder carries a certain gentleness, because it reframes the Egyptians not as deceivers, but as stewards, caretakers of something ancient and sacred, something inherited from a time beyond their own. Memory, and as you continue to drift, you imagine ancient priests walking through the empty chambers, their footsteps echoing softly, aware that these spaces were not designed for burial rituals, but perhaps for something quieter, something symbolic, something ceremonial, or even something practical in a way we no longer recognize. And the emptiness of the chambers begins to feel intentional, purposeful, like a pause in music, a silence that gives meaning to the notes around it. And as your body sinks further into rest, this silence wraps around you, calming, expansive. Because silence does not demand interpretation, it allows presence, and the more you consider it, the more the Great Pyramid feels less like a house for the dead, and more like a vessel for continuity, a structure meant to exist beyond individual lives, beyond dynasties, beyond even civilizations. And this brings your awareness back to time itself, because tombs are built for endings, but this pyramid feels oriented toward endurance, toward lasting, toward remaining unchanged, while everything else transforms. And perhaps that is why no body rests within it, because bodies are temporary, but ideas patterns, and alignments can transcend lifetimes. And as this realization settles gently into your mind, you imagine the Egyptians themselves grappling with these ancient structures, attributing them to gods, to semi-divine ancestors, to a distant age, when the world was different, and rather than dismantling or erasing them, they chose to honor them, to integrate them into their own spiritual landscape, to build temples nearby, to tell stories that link their present to an unfathomable past. And in doing so, they preserved the mystery rather than destroying it. And this act of preservation feels deeply human, deeply respectful, and deeply calming, because it suggests that even in antiquity, people understood that not everything needs to be fully explained to be meaningful. And as you remain in this softened state, your thoughts slow further, moving like gentle waves, and you imagine the pyramid at dawn long ago, priests standing at its base, not mourning a king, but greeting the sun, acknowledging cycles rather than endings, continuity rather than conclusion. And this image brings a quiet comfort, because it aligns with the rhythm of sleep itself, the way night gives way to morning without effort, without force. And as part 3 begins to draw toward its close, the idea that Khufu was a restorer, not a builder, lingers softly, not as a challenge to history, but as an expansion of it, a reminder that history is layered, complex, and often more mysterious than the simplest stories we tell. And as your breathing deepens and your awareness drifts, hold onto this gentle understanding that the Great Pyramid may not be a tomb at all, but a legacy, a structure inherited, respected, and preserved by those who came later, a silent testament to a past that reaches further back than memory. And as you surrender more fully to rest, allow this thought to cradle you, knowing that the journey continues, that there are more quiet chambers to explore, more ancient whispers to hear, and that for now, it is enough to simply rest within the mystery, carried gently forward by time itself, carried gently forward by time itself, and without breaking the calm or lifting you from this half-dreaming state. The story descends now slowly and smoothly into part 4, where the mystery no longer stands beneath the open sky but moves beneath the earth, into the quiet darkness below the Giza plateau, because as your body rests heavier, and your thoughts grow softer, your imagination begins to drift downward, past the massive limestone blocks, past the cool stone floors, into a realm that few have ever seen directly, a realm of tunnels, chambers, and hidden spaces that seem to exist between history and myth. And this descent feels natural, unhurried, like sinking gently into sleep itself. Because beneath the pyramids the world grows. Quieter sound dampened, time stretched, and here the ancient mystery feels closer, more intimate, as if the earth itself is holding a secret close to its chest. And long before modern machines scanned the ground, ancient stories spoke of something. Below Giza, stories passed down through fragments, whispers, and half-forgotten texts. Stories of an underground network, a web of passages connecting temples, pyramids, and places long buried by sand. And as you imagine these passages, now they do not feel dark or threatening, but calm and deliberate, carved with purpose, shaped with intention, as though they were meant not for hurried movement, but for quiet preservation. And this sense deepens as modern discoveries begin to echo the old legends, because radar scans and geological surveys reveal anomalies beneath the plateau, vast hollow spaces where solid rock should be, suggesting chambers hidden far below the surface. And this knowledge settles gently into your awareness, not as excitement, but as reassurance, because it suggests that the ancient world still has layers, left untouched, mysteries left unbroken. And as your breathing remains slow and steady, you imagine small robotic explorers moving cautiously through narrow shafts inside the Great Pyramid, their mechanical presence contrasting softly with the ancient stone. And these robots encounter sealed doors, stone slabs fitted with care, some with small copper handles placed not for decoration, but for function, handles meant to be grasped yet leading nowhere, obvious doors behind doors, passages ending in silence. And this deliberate sealing feels intentional, not careless, as if the builders wanted to close something away until the right moment, or perhaps forever. And this thought does not disturb you, it comforts you, because secrecy can be protective, and protection suggests value. And whatever lies hidden beneath Giza feels less like forbidden knowledge and more like safeguarded memory. And as you continue to drift, the idea of the Hall of Records begins to surface, an ancient legend spoken of in scattered texts and esoteric traditions, a place said to exist beneath the Sphinx or the pyramids, where the knowledge of a lost age was stored not in books that could burn or crumble, but in stone chambers designed to last through cataclysms, floods, and time itself. And whether or not such a hall truly exists, the idea itself carries a soothing weight, because it imagines a past that cared deeply about the future, a past that understood loss and sought to protect understanding against it. And as you imagine these hidden chambers, they feel quiet, orderly, undisturbed, not filled with gold or artifacts, but with something more subtle, perhaps symbols, perhaps records, perhaps nothing tangible at all, but rather the space itself holding meaning, like a pause held carefully between breaths. And this emptiness once again feels intentional, because not all knowledge needs form. Sometimes it exists in alignment, in placement, in the relationship between things. And as your mind lingers here, you may sense that the underground network beneath Giza mirrors the structure above. Just as the pyramid rises toward the sky, these passages descend into the earth, creating a balance between above and below, between heaven and ground, between the visible and the hidden, and this symmetry feels deeply calming because balance is restful, and the ancient builders, whoever they were, seem to have understood this instinctively. And as you sink further into rest, the story introduces another gentle layer, the frustration of modern discovery, because time and again, investigations into these underground spaces have been paused, restricted, or quietly redirected, not with dramatic confrontation, but with silence, funding cuts, sealed reports, unanswered questions. And this pattern does not stir suspicion. Here it stirs reflection, because institutions, like individuals, often hesitate when faced with uncertainty, and uncertainty can feel unsettling when it challenges familiar narratives, and yet beneath that hesitation, the chambers remain untouched, unbothered, patient, just as they have always been. And this patience feels comforting, because it suggests that truth does not rush, it waits. And as your thoughts soften further, you imagine standing at the base of the Sphinx, feeling the cool stone beneath your hand, sensing the vast emptiness below, and realizing that what lies underground may not be meant to be uncovered quickly or even fully, because some things reveal themselves only gradually through contemplation rather than excavation. And this realization aligns perfectly with the rhythm of sleep, because sleep too reveals understanding slowly through dreams rather than analysis. And as Part 4 continues, the underground world becomes less about physical tunnels and more about layers of awareness, layers of history resting beneath what we see on the surface, reminding you that the world, like the mind, is deeper than it appears, and that stillness often hides complexity rather than emptiness. And as you rest within this thought, the image of sealed doors with copper handles lingers softly, not as obstacles, but as invitations, symbols of knowledge acknowledged, but not forced, respected, but not rushed. And this respect feels deeply calming, because it suggests harmony between curiosity and patience, between the desire to know and the wisdom to wait. And as the story gently approaches its close, the underground chambers fade into a quiet awareness beneath your consciousness, like a foundation supporting a great structure, unseen but essential. And you realize that just as these hidden spaces support the pyramids above, unseen depths support your own inner world. Memories, thoughts, and dreams resting quietly beneath waking awareness. And with this parallel, your body relaxes even more, your breathing slow, and even your mind drifting freely. And Part 4 draws to a close, not with revelation, but with stillness, the comforting knowledge that beneath the sands, beneath the stone, beneath even history itself, something ancient remains intact, waiting, patient, undisturbed. And as you surrender more fully to sleep, let this sense of hidden depth cradle you, knowing that the journey continues, that more whispers await, and that for now, it is enough to rest safely held between the surface of the world and the quiet mystery below, safely held between the surface of the world and the quiet mystery below. And from that deep stillness, the story rises again, not upward in haste, but outward across time and memory, flowing seamlessly into Part 5, where the mystery widens beyond Egypt itself and becomes something global, something almost dreamlike in its scale, because as you remain resting comfortably, your mind drifting gently, the underground chambers fade into a broader awareness, an awareness that the pyramids and the Sphinx do not stand alone in their strangeness, that similar echoes appear across the world like familiar shapes glimpsed in different dreams. And as this realization unfolds, it does not feel overwhelming, it feels oddly familiar, as though your mind recognizes a pattern before your thoughts can name it. And slowly, calmly, the idea of a lost civilization begins to take form, not as a sudden revelation, but as a quiet convergence of clues, myths, and shared memories, scattered across cultures separated by oceans and ages, because long before modern maps connected the world, ancient stories spoke of a time when humanity was unified, when knowledge flowed freely, when great floods reshaped the earth and erased much of what came before. And among these stories is the legend of Atlantis, described by Plato not as a myth, but as an inherited account of a powerful civilization that existed thousands of years before his own time. A civilization advanced in architecture, science, and understanding of nature, one that ultimately fell to catastrophe, leaving behind only fragments of its wisdom, carried forward by survivors. And as you imagine this lost world now, it does not appear as a place of towering machines or cold technology, but as a society deeply attuned to the earth, the sky, and the cycles that govern both. A society that built in harmony with natural laws, encoding knowledge into stone shape and placement rather than fragile texts. And this image feels soothing because it frames advancement not as domination, but as balance, and as your breathing remains slow, and even you begin to see connections forming gently in your mind, pyramidal structures appearing in Egypt, in Mesoamerica, in Asia, in distant islands, structures built by cultures that, according to conventional history, had no contact with one another, yet somehow arrived at similar forms, similar orientations, similar reverence for the sky. And this similarity does not feel coincidental here. It feels like resonance, like a shared memory expressed differently across time and place. And as this thought settles, the idea arises that perhaps these cultures were not inventing from nothing, but remembering, inheriting fragments of a much older blueprint, one passed down through oral tradition, symbolism, and sacred architecture. And this inheritance feels gentle, almost tender, because it suggests continuity, rather than lost survival, rather than disappearance. And as you drift further, the pyramids of Giza take on a new role in your imagination, not as isolated marvels, but as anchors, reference points left deliberately in places of power on the Earth, places where the planet's energy, geography, and sky align in meaningful ways. And this idea does not demand belief, it invites contemplation, because contemplation itself is restful. And as you continue to sink into this calm awareness, you may sense that the lost civilization, whatever it truly was, need not be defined precisely to be meaningful, because its essence lies not in its name or location, but in its intention, the intention to preserve understanding beyond catastrophe, beyond forgetting. And this intention feels deeply human, deeply relatable, because all of us, in our own quiet ways, hope to leave something behind that matters, something that endures. And as part 5 moves gently toward its close, the image of Atlantis, of lost ages, of shared ancient knowledge softens into a feeling rather than a theory, the feeling that humanity's story is longer and richer than we often realize, and that beneath the surface of history lies a deep current of continuity carrying wisdom forward, even when memory fades and as your body grows heavier. With rest, allow this idea to cradle you, knowing that it is not meant to be solved tonight, only felt, only allowed to exist quietly in the background of your dreams. Because from this wide ancient perspective, the story now turns inward, one final time flowing naturally into part 6, where all the threads begin to settle not into answers, but into rest. And as part 6 begins, you find yourself once again beneath the night sky at Giza. The desert calm, the air cool, the stars moving slowly overhead, and now the pyramids feel less mysterious and more familiar, like old companions who have been waiting patiently for you to return. And in this stillness, the shape of the pyramid itself becomes the focused, simple, stable, enduring a form so fundamental that it appears again and again in nature, in mountains, crystals, and even in the way light behaves. And this simplicity feels comforting because it suggests that the deepest truths are often the simplest. And as you gaze at this shape in your imagination, you may sense that it functions not as a machine or a monument, but as a memory device, a repository of understanding encoded not in words, but in form, alignment, and relationship, a message that does not say this is what we knew, but rather this is how we thought. This is how we related to the world, and this realization feels peaceful because it places you within a long lineage of observers, thinkers, and dreamers who have looked at the same stars, wondered about the same questions, and felt the same quiet awe. And as you rest in this awareness, the idea of extraterrestrials, advanced technology, and hidden conspiracies fades into the background, not denied, but softened, because the heart of the mystery no longer needs dramatic explanations to be meaningful. Its power lies in its invitation to wonder, to slow down, to recognize that not everything valuable is immediately understandable, and this recognition aligns perfectly with the act of sleep, because sleep too is a surrender of control, a trust in processes beyond conscious awareness. And as your breathing becomes deeper and slower, you may sense that the pyramids were built not to impress, not to dominate, but to endure, to carry something fragile yet essential across the ages. Perhaps not specific knowledge, but a reminder of humility, of patience, of humanity's place within a vast and ancient cosmos. And as this final thought settles, the image of the pyramids begins to glow softly in your mind, not with light, but with presence, steady and reassuring. And you realize that whatever their true origin, whoever their true builders were, the pyramids have fulfilled their purpose simply by existing, by inspiring questions, by connecting generations through shared curiosity. And now, as part 6 draws gently to a close, the story releases you from the need to wonder further tonight, offering instead a sense of completion, a quiet understanding that some mysteries are meant to accompany us into sleep rather than follow us into waking thought. And so, dear listener, allow your mind to rest. Now let the ancient sounds settle, let the stars continue their slow journey overhead, and let yourself drift fully into sleep, knowing that the guardians of stone remain patient and silent, holding their secrets safely while you dream. And as the night deepens and your awareness fades, remember this softly: that history is deeper than it appears, memory is longer than we imagine, and you are part of a story far older and far gentler than any single answer could ever be. And with that thought, there is nothing left to do, nowhere left to go, only rest, only stillness, only sleep. Good night, and may your dreams become ancient and kind.